Now, events are also taking place across Europe today to commemorate the end of the Second World War on the continent 77 years ago. In a speech to trade unionists, German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier called May the 8th a day of thanks for Germans because it marked the end of the Nazi regime. But he also underlined the significance of marking the end of the World War while Russia is waging a war of aggression against Ukraine.
For a long time, the 8th of May was also a day of hope. Those who survived the Second World War could hope that the European continent had learned from history that no one would ever again resort to war as a political strategy. But today, on this May the 8th, the dream of a common European house has failed and been replaced by a nightmare. This 8th of May is a day of war. We are all shocked and troubled by the brutal, illegal war of aggression that a major nuclear power has been waging against a sovereign, democratic country in Europe for 2 months now. The Ukrainians are suffering immeasurably under the cruelty of their attackers, under the destruction that Russian troops have brought to their country. The images of bombed cities and starving people, despairing mothers, grandmothers and children fleeing, the images of mass graves and witnesses to the worst of war crimes, these images are breaking our hearts.
Elsewhere in Germany, the Ukraine war has been causing tensions ahead of other World War II commemoration events in which representatives of Russia traditionally play a major role. Anti-war protests and pro-Russia rallies are set to take place alongside ceremonies involving both Russians and Ukrainians. As a former Soviet republic, Ukraine also fought in the war to defeat Hitler. DW political correspondent Julia Saudeli is monitoring the World War II commemorations here in Berlin. Hello, Julia. May 8th marks the defeat of Germany in World War II. So tell us why it's still a hugely important date here in Germany.
It marks not only the defeat of Germany in that war, but also the liberation of Germany and of Europe from the National Socialist dictatorship, and also the end of the war that also had a terrible impact on Germany itself. So it became a day, an event that is quite felt here in the country, and every year we see commemorations take place at monuments like this one behind me, which commemorates the soldiers, Soviet soldiers who died in World War II. Now, up to 6 million Ukrainian soldiers were also part of the Soviet army at the time. Up to half of those died in that war. And it is of significance to the Ukrainian community here in Berlin, too, to come and commemorate their troops. And that is what happened again this year. And the war in Ukraine has brought an entire new significance to those commemorations.
So what are the main events planned for today, and how likely are we to see tensions between different groups involved in the commemorations?
Well, we have a lot of commemoration events planned at different memorials like this one behind me spread across the city, and also some protests organized both by pro-Russian groups and pro-Ukrainian anti-war groups. And we've seen some tension take place here earlier when the Ukrainian ambassador to Germany took place in the commemoration here, and there were groups outside on the street yelling against the ambassador, saying he should leave, calling for fascists to leave the event in a reference to Putin's rhetoric and calling Ukraine a country that has to be denazified. And we've also seen pro-Ukrainian protesters counteracting these chants, and there was some tension there, but now the police has cleared out all the protesters from here. They've brought them away from the memorial, but other events are planned also across the city throughout the day.
There's also this issue here. Berlin authorities are facing criticism for banning the displaying of both Russian and Ukrainian flags and symbols anywhere near memorial sites. Tell us more.
Yes, this is meant to try to help ease tensions between the two different groups, the pro-Ukrainian and the pro-Russian groups that have called for protests today. And we have seen here that at some point flags were unveiled and protesters were able to keep them flying, especially closer within the memorial where the access was restricted. But we've also seen police having to go to protesters and tell them to roll up their Ukrainian flags and to put them away. There has been a lot of criticism of this because the Ukrainian community finds it that it doesn't make sense really to ban Ukrainian flags from flying, and the Ukrainian ambassador himself has criticized this measure as being quite useless and also not showing solidarity towards Ukraine.
Okay, Julia Saudelli, thank you.
Thank you.